Legends. The podcast about urban legends. Meet your host, that's right, Neil Chris Huntley.
Hello and welcome to Urban Legends, the internet's top podcast, which is about urban legends from all over this glorious planet that we call Terra. I am the ancient lord of Albion, Chris Flynn, and with me, as always, is famed metallurgist, or I think that's probably right, Mr.
Neil Herbert.
Hi Neil, how you doing?
Metallurgist.
Well, you should know.
Yeah, apparently.
So, have you been coming up with any new compounds, like something better than steel, maybe? Or
I got distracted because two Highlanders were having a fight in a car park. Then really? When I went out to see a wrestling match. Yeah, and I found some Toledo steel. It was 2,000 years old.
Wow!
Intricately weaved design.
What was it, a pub car park or like outside Iceland?
It was outside Aldi's.
Outside Aldi's.
Having a fight. It was a lot of Scotch eggs.
Oh, fighting over Scotch eggs.
They're free. Yeah.
Right.
Being littered around.
That's terrifying. And what do you think of sort of the new boys on the market, which aren't really metals, but they could replace them, such as carbon nanotubes?
I think, there's no real art to making a carbon nanotube, is there?
No, it's easy.
Yeah.
You just mash two carbon atoms together.
Yeah, you just mash a load of carbon nanotubes together.
It's nowhere near as artistic as hitting some hot metal with a big hammer. Look,
don't mock the noble art of ironmongery or whatever.
I kind of fancied doing a bit of blacksmithing. I kind of played around with doing it as a career for a bit because I think there'd be something quite elemental and nice about it, and you could kind of sell rich idiots like really fancy gates.
I would imagine it's a very niche market, tricky one to actually make money in.
Well, there isn't that many of them anymore. People aren't learning it, so they're always looking for people because it is still needed. Horses still need shoeing. Do you know what I mean?
This is true.
And you can do artisan stuff. Like most of them, it's not like...
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? You'd have to, if you could build up your own store and you were doing, very sort of like crafty stuff and selling it yourself. Yeah.
Like a big flower with Mark Wallberg's face in the middle or something to put on top of your chimney.
Yes, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That would fly off the shelves.
Be scowling down at you. You wouldn't want that. Sitting the thought in the middle of their living room.
Yeah, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? That'd be nice. Let's have a think. What other stuff could you do?
Is it just from the neck up, or is it kind of like he's got a little? Is it a little bust? He's got his little pecs.
No, it's literally just his face, not even the neck.
Just his face. Yeah.
Just
that big forehead as well.
That big forehead. That's good. That scare the birds off the chimney.
Yeah.
You could perhaps wire it up as some kind of way to get your Sky television package.
Yeah, because we could remind you,
Well, you wire it up, stick an antenna in the middle of the forehead, get all the signals from Rupert Murdoch.
Or a projector could come out from his mouth and just screen it on the opposite side of the living room.
Or a cannon.
Yeah.
See, well, you could. That's just the taste of the range of my new Mark Wallberg cast iron mantelpiece objet d'art. Please get in contact if you're interested. They are very expensive, so I won't be.
So numbers are limited, and just for 10 low instalments of $100 or pounds a month, these are going to sell out quick. I'm going to be honest with you. When they're gone, they're gone.
It's what? Only 1,000. Do you have any idea of the work you have to do?
I'll tell you what my favourite one of those scams is. Do you ever see? Because
it's not a scam, Neil.
Yeah, the ones where it's extremely limited to 10,000 pieces of resin or whatever. Yeah. I love that noise. Or some little porcelain doll that looks like a little baby or something. Very, very low. Only 20,000 pieces created to get now before they sell out.
Or like bunnykins. Those ones which I found really funny, which were just rabbits doing different jobs, and there was one that was a lawyer. It was like,
run out of ideas after a while.
It's QC.
Because and they always advertise at the back of like the Sunday Mail or something like that. It's just like someone just given up on life. Just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll buy this.
Well, you would give up on life if you were reading the Mail, wouldn't you?
But no, the one that really makes me laugh is that they'll have these, the ones we'll be making a boat or something like that, and it'd be the first issue only £1 and contains magazines. one mast or something that you can put in, and then it's like, in just over 200 issues at £15 a month, you can make the HMS Victory or something. It's like, probably just buy a boat model. It won't cost you 10 grand to finish. And let's face it, they're going out of business in a year. Yeah. You're not going to get this boat.
When dinosaurs were back in the big time, after sort of around Jurassic Park, there was a dinosaur magazine, which my uncle got me a subscription to, which was really nice of him, my Uncle Jim. And that you built a T-Rex, so you get like, I don't know, 2 bones an issue or something, and then eventually you got the skeleton and stuff. But that's the only one which I ever completed of them.
Oh, it did end up finishing.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing with that kind of thing, I can just imagine, like, they don't get
it's in landfill now, don't worry about it.
It just goes past.
It's in landfill.
Somewhere in Indonesia, it's taking up yet more.
It's currently choking a seal somewhere in China. But, I did finish it. That's the only one. But again, I wasn't buying it. So
no, fair enough.
Yeah, it was always first issue 99p, and then they were like $3.99 each issue or something.
Yeah, I think it's just going to cost vastly more. The fact that it costs vastly more.
My uncle bought it for me. And what I would say is, what you're forgetting, Neil, is all of the information you get within the booklet, the magazine. So you could go and buy just a dinosaur of a T-Rex, but you're not going to get all that information. Information is invaluable. You can't put a price on it. That's what I'd say.
No, you'd have to go and buy the book next door to the dinosaur skeletons, which will take you all 11. And the thing is, I can sort of see this stuff happening in the 90s when, you didn't have the internet. The fact that now we're still, we
didn't have the internet then. So,
well, theoretically, I guess we did, but, we weren't really.
Well, no, people didn't have, so we're talking, I would have been 14 or something. So we're talking 95, 96. So there wasn't, I think we got the internet at home when I was 16, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I started using it at uni in around 96. But, it wasn't common until sort of late 90s, 2000s. Obviously, some people did have them. But, it wasn't really common until the late 90s. No. Anyway, nobody wants to hear about talking about when the internet happened. No interest to anyone.
So, Neil, I've been watching, as you know, I'm a bit of a TV aficionado.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've been getting a lot of good responses of all the TV reviews we've been giving. People have been getting in touch and thanking us, and they've generally agreed with everything I've said and enjoyed the shows.
That's rare for you, so that's nice.
It's really nice. Nice little pat on the back for old Chrissy boy. A little pat on the head. So I've been watching, I think it's the final series of Ozarks, the Ozarks.
Okay, yeah.
And what it's about, right? It's about this Ukrainian family, and it's Pavel and Anya Ozark, and they move into like suburban America, and it's kind of like a dark comedy. And they're kind of getting everything
they're like
wrong.
Fish out of water. They don't really know what to expect.
But it's quite dark because I think Pavel's got a bit of a checkered past, and their sort of hilarious next door neighbour is Pele. He often comes round trying to sell him.
He's busy, isn't he? Pele he seems to.
He's really picked up. It's like Ian McShane.
Yeah.
He's doing really well.
One minute he's doing Lovejoy, the next he's famous all over America. Who would have thought it?
Exactly. So he comes round, and Andre the Giant plays his brother.
Oh, that's impressive. I assume this is a CGI Andre the Giant because obviously he died years ago.
Yeah, well, it's. Are
they using the sort of technology they've used for those movies? It's gotten cheap enough now that you can render an Andre the Giant with basically a the sort of gaming.
Well, what it is it's actually the character is Andre the Giant. It's not actually played by.
Oh, it's not played by Andre. Oh, right, okay.
No, because it's set in the late 80s.
Oh, brilliant! Yes,
and so they've got like a bloke, like someone sitting on someone else's shoulders, like trench coat.
Yeah,
So I mean, the arms look a bit weird because they are a bit short. But yeah, they've got
a big lad and someone sitting on his shoulders.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly it.
So high production values then.
Very high production values. I think it costs about $7 million an episode, but a lot of that's because of the fighting scenes, which are
golden age TV. You can't really afford
very kinetic, very bloody. But yeah, so what's happened is someone from the KGB has come over because it's before the fall of the Berlin Wall and everything, and he's trying to get Pavel Ozark to do some spying on Andre the Giant because Andre the Giant's got ties to the CIA, of course, as we found out afterwards. I mean,
absolutely,
it's semi-historical. I mean, they take some liberties, like with Bridgerton, but it's kind of semi-historical. And he's refusing, and then assassins are sent out and all that kind of stuff. And what's happening at the moment is the KGB are currently in turf war with all Pele's lads from the favelas.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a lot of gang politics and stuff there because they're trying to get the dick pills because they want to send them back to Yeltsin, but he won't. Yes. But Pele obviously is not going to let them go for nothing, and also he's worried that if he sends them abroad, the FDA will get involved. So
yes, it's really inconstant as well. I mean, let's face it, he's just going to end up falling asleep on the runway or something, isn't he? Just not pay for his pills.
Well, exactly. So
used them all up. Next thing you know, and he's not going to get that money back if he didn't pay up front.
Yeah, uses them all up.
You've forgotten about it.
Falls asleep in a press conference, drunk with an erection.
Absolutely raging erection. No knowledge that it was chemically enhanced.
Yeah,
little Boris has still got it.
I believe that was one of the leading factors in the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Absolutely. Well, no, as I recall, actually,
as he fell,
they made a little hole and he just kind of like poked it through, knocked down that first segment. That was
like a glory hole.
Yeah,
east to west glory hole.
All right, yeah. I mean, in hindsight, like a lot of things from that time, it looks a bit unfortunate now. But
it's what we were all doing it. We were all doing it back in '89.
Doing it for freedom. And that was, I seem to recall, I believe. Hasselhoff was on atop that section of the wall.
He was on the other side. He was on the other side of it, giving it a little tickle.
Yeah. While Kit was egging him on.
But anyway, yeah. So that's where we are at the moment. There's a tense standoff between the lads from the favelas, the KGB, the CIA, and sort of Pavel Ozark's running around going, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do," and does a pratfall, and everyone goes, It's all done in front of a live studio audience.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, multi-camera stuff. Well, I imagine Andre the Giant takes a dim view of all the shenanigans.
Do you know what? He sort of doesn't know what's going on, to be honest.
No.
His CIA
sort of blundering through.
Yeah, they're kind of keeping him in the dark.
He's just a sort of agent of chaos that the CIA are using as a tool. Doesn't really know he's an asset.
Well, he's like a Manchurian candidate.
Yeah.
So they're protecting him because basically the plan is to use Andre the Giant to assassinate, I don't know, Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Let's say.
They just activate him by saying, like, oh, horse meat's gone up to $3 a pound. And then he just clotheslines some world leader. Yeah.
So snaps Mandela's neck after swimming there from America. Yeah, so, I mean...
You've got to stop that.
Well, exactly. So, it's very much like The Wire in that there's no kind of clear...
There's no clear good guys or bad guys,
No, they're all both, and
it's morally grey.
It's morally grey.
Because normally you'd think the CIA would be the good guys in any scenario, but it sounds like they.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
They might be slightly morally compromised in this. So obviously, they're not the most realistic of scenarios. But hey, if you forgive that for some
Yeah, so
some nuance to your storytelling.
So it's just been renewed for 3 more series. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'd give that a 7 out of 10. So I believe it's on Disney Plus if you fancy watching it.
Most of it is.
So
I'm looking forward to that getting weaved into the Marvel movies at some point. It's a big franchise, isn't it? At the end of the day,
yeah. Thor battling Andre the Giant, who is one man sitting on another man's shoulders.
Yeah, just Ant-Man punching Andre the Giant or whatever. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
have a wrestling match together because he's got the strength of 20 ants or something, whatever that is. However that works. I didn't pay a lot of attention, just sort of wedding one ear out the other.
Right, so this week's legend is we're going back to Africa, all of our spiritual homelands. And we're going to Madagascar, which is a big island off the east coast of southern Africa, for those who don't know. I'll tell you what, though, Neil, this wasn't in the Pixar film, Madagascar. I'm
glad you did that because that saved me doing it. There wasn't David Schwimmer in that. I've not seen that.
I'm not a child. So it's Madagascar's legendary man-eating tree. Ooh.
Oh, so normally we'd sort of like compare notes before, but I deliberately have not looked up anything about this. I want this to be a complete surprise going in.
I mean, we don't often compare notes before. I mean, I don't often read further than the next sentence along.
I mean,
never be prepared.
Before we start recording.
That's the podcast motto. Never be prepared.
Yeah. Well, we let each other know what we're going to do, don't we? And usually I'll at least, skim read something, but now I want to, the immaculate
conception.
1.5 minutes of research that I would normally do. I've not for this, just to keep it fresh myself.
Lovely. So this is from mentalfloss.com, which I've heard of. So there's quite a few articles, so I'm going to sort of...
Been bought out by a venture capitalists yet? Just got a load of 16-year-olds writing for them. Like every other website on the internet.
A load of 16-year-olds in Ethiopia writing for them.
Or Madagascar, possibly.
Possibly, maybe that's why this has come up. We just need copy. Content, anything. Have you heard of anything? Write it. So, it's probably one of the most fantastic tales in botany. The legend of the man-eating tree. First reported in 1881 by a German explorer, named Karl Lesch, or Liche. No, I'll just say Lesch. That sounds more German. It was said to be sacred and much feared plants used in sacrificial rituals by the native Mkodo tribe. The South Australian Register printed his account of a first-hand encounter with the Mkodo and the fearsome tree. From the top of the tree sprouts long, hairy green tendrils and a set of tentacles, constantly and vigorously in motion, with a subtle, sinuous, silent throbbing against the air.
So far, so terrific.
Presented a woman as an offering, the slender, delicate pulpa with the fury of starved serpents quivered in a movement over her head, and then, as if instinct with demonic intelligence, fastened upon her in sudden coils round and round her neck and arms. Then, while her awful screams and yet more awful laughter rose wildly to be instantly strangled down, again in a gurgling moan, the tendrils, one after another, like great green serpents, with brutal energy and infernal rapidity, rose, retracted themselves, and wrapped her about in fold after fold, ever tightening with cruel swiftness and a savage tenacity of anacondas fastening upon their prey. Whoa.
Right, Blofeld, thanks for that.
That was brilliant impression.
That was brutal, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just sort of like digesting human remains or something. This is actually...
It's not like a Venus flytrap.
No.
This
is actually sort of strangling folk and then
bringing them into into the I don't know, enzymes probably.
No, it chomps them up and then does a little burp.
like Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
So 40 years later, a former governor of Michigan turned explorer named Chase Osborne.
Nice.
Wrote about the tree in his book, Madagascar, Land of the Man-Eating Tree, confirming Leish's claims and adding that other tribes as well as missionaries also knew about the tree.
So we've got some compelling evidence here, corroboration.
So, where are these amazing and terrible trees? Are they so rare, or have they simply been victims, like so much of the lush green canopy that once covered Madagascar, to deforestation? I mean, I've got a man-eating tree set of drawers that I got in IKEA, so could be.
Oh, yeah. Well, do you remember that was that craze in the 80s when we were all using the hairspray and stuff with the, make everything out of man-eating trees?
Yeah, it's true. That's how
pretty cool.
That's how you used to get those T-shirts that turn different colours when you sweat.
Yeah. Global hypercolour, yeah.
Global hypercolour, yeah.
Maybe the pulp of a man-eating tree.
I mean, you always want to show people when you're really sweaty under the armpits.
I had one of those and a pair of green jeans. Looked pretty cool. Oh, yeah. The 90s.
Nice. I just dressed up as Teddy Ruxpin.
That was post by having a step and a shell suit. Early 90s, even worse.
An undercut.
Yeah. Anyone doesn't remember that, look up the...
undercut.
The step. No, not an undercut. It's literally, a bowl haircut, and then it would just like be sort of carved into your head, so the other bit was just like a bit... It's sort of...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You just look like a little Lego man, basically.
Oh, yeah, Lego man. Well, Lego men have side partings, don't they?
I can't remember. Well, I think I had a mid-parting. And then it was like, yeah. I mean, everyone looked a bit like a mushroom in the early 90s.
So, unfortunately, the answer is none of the above, apparently. The whole thing was a hoax, Neil.
You're kidding me.
It was debunked in 1955 by a science writer named Willie Ley, who discovered that not only were the tribe and trees made up, but so was the German explorer who supposedly found them. 9!
He heard your audio recording of him and thought, that sounds very fake.
Removed himself from existence. Still, that hasn't stopped sci-fi writers for inventing a whole host of carnivorous plants to take its place. Think of Audrey II from Little Shop of Horrors, or the bushy villain
sci-fi, but
of Day of the Triffids. What are you talking about? That's a sci-fi classic, Little Shop of Horrors.
Wyndham was sci-fi, but I'm not sure. Little Shop of Horrors really counts.
Yeah, Little Shop of Horrors, Rocky Horror Show. That's sci-fi. They're all sci-fi. Yeah. Still, I think
development, sci-fi, scientific. That was sci-fi, wasn't it?
It was.
You remember?
Yeah, Coronation Street. That's sci-fi.
Yeah.
Still, Coronation Street, for those who are listening from non-UK parts of the planet, is a soap opera which has been on in the UK for around 170 years.
Yeah, I think it goes back to Napoleonic Wars. They used to act them out on stage. A bit like Doctor Who, you can't get the really early episodes anymore. But,
it's set on the outskirts of Manchester. Still, I think the fact that people were willing to believe this outstanding story for 70 years says something about human nature. Some strange part of us wants there to be giant man-eating trees somewhere in the world. Why do you think this is? I
mean, I'll give them that, because it's kind of like... And the one thing that was interesting with the Triffids things, they only became dangerous when everyone became blind, as I remember that novel I read years and years ago. But no, I remember it's like, do you remember what you'd hear about when you were a kid? Like plants, like insects, like Venus flytraps. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I remember seeing them in like Kew Gardens. It's like, it's a bit lame. Yeah, it's a really tiny thing that just waits for a bee to basically fall asleep inside.
Well, it's flies, isn't it? It couldn't take a bee. They're too small for that.
Yeah, probably more of a fly, I suppose. But I don't know.
There are some more dangerous ones in like the Amazon that will take a mammal. They'll take like a small monkey maybe, or a boloco or a mouse.
Or boloco, yeah.
I mean, there are animals that do eat humans. Not humans, sorry. I'm so human-centric. There are animals that will eat Oh, fuck's sake.
Plants that will eat animals.
Plants that will eat
they're
animals,
carnivorous.
or
Yeah,
insects.
they're carnivorous plants, absolutely. So, but it's more of a digestion, isn't it? But
well, yeah, they
suppose if you're in
just
a
slowly
position where-
dissolve them.
Yeah.
That's still, that's,
I mean, this is the thing is because
that's a horrible way to go, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be great, but the thing
And
is,
you get those spores, like the mushrooms that drive like creatures mad, and then they like grow inside the creature's brain and stuff. You get those kind of.
yeah, it'd be arguably worse. Yeah.
Yeah, well, depends. Depends what your brain's like.
Yeah.
Might be a relief.
Pretty brutal. Yeah, it's a bit of a break, if anything.
So they reckon it's a hoax. I think most people are going to say it's a hoax, but I think it's interesting to look into some other articles on it.
Well, keep that in mind.
I have got it, yeah.
You don't know.
So this is from weirdhistorian.com, and it's written by Mark with a C. Hartsman. Madagascar is home to many unusual creatures, like satanic leaf-tailed geckos, eyes, giant jumping rats, and leaf bug nymphs. So, I mean, he's already starting off a bit more promising for me, the fact that he thinks that geckos are the spawn of Satan.
Well, crawling up and down walls. What's that all about?
Yeah. It's like The Exorcist is saying. But for many years, do you reckon that's where he's like, well, I've seen The Exorcist and she climbs up a wall or something.
She's climbing up the wall. That's spooky,
So if any creature can do it as well, they're probably possessed by the devil.
Look, the devil draws power from many forms. It's not just the belief of humans,
isn't it?
That's in his war against God. He'll tap into the animal market if needs be.
Really,
he's a wily little fella. Yeah,
diversifying.
Yeah,
it's a good idea, isn't it? It's a very good idea.
When he gets the whales on side, I tell you what, we're in trouble.
Oof. Well, I think he's already got the orcas, but they're not whales, are they? They're dolphins. I think dolphins are probably.
I think dolphins are on the fence. I don't trust them.
Yeah, I think they've hopped over the fence. To be honest,
you reckon they're fully in the camp of evil?
Well, they try and rape humans, don't they? So, and orcas are pretty horrible because they just kill baby humpback whales all the time for a laugh. They're not nice creatures, no matter what the film Free Willy says. Like a gang of teenagers, aren't they, orcas? But for many years, the strangest form of life on the island was believed to be a tree that ate people. This is a different starting point here. It all started with a New York World article published on April 28, 1874. The story went into great detail about the tree and the primitive Makodos tribe that worship it. As described in a letter written to, God, the names is great, Dr. Omelius Fredlowski by the hungry plants discoverer Carl Leach. Makodos reportedly lived in caves, wore no clothes, and had no religion beyond that awful reverence which they paid to the sacred tree. And they were all short. None stood taller than 56 inches. How tall's that? 12 inches.
It's under 5 foot, isn't it?
Yeah, about 4.5 foot. Nietzsche found the man-eating tree near a bend in a stream and vividly described it as such. So here we go. This is a description of the tree, not the sacrifice. You ready for my accent again?
If we must. I'm stealing myself. I'm not sure.
If you can imagine a pineapple 8 feet high and thick in proportion, resting upon its base and denuded of leaves, you will have a good idea of the trunk of the tree. From the apex of this truncated cone, at least 2 feet in diameter, 8 leaves hung sheer to the ground like doors slung back on their hinges. These leaves, which were joined at the top of the tree at regular intervals, were about 11 or 12 feet long and shaped very much like the American agave or century plant. They were 2 feet through the thickest parts and 3 feet wide, tapering to a sharp point that looked like a cow's horn. Very convex. On the other outer surface and on the inner surface, slightly concave. This concave face was thickly set with strong thorny hooks, like those upon the head of a cone. These leaves hanging thus limp and lifeless, dead green in color, had in appearance the massive strength of oak fiber. The apex of the cone was round, white, concave figure, and a small plate set within a smaller one. This was not only a flower, but a receptacle, and there exuded a clear, trickly liquid, honey sweet, and possessed of a violent, intoxicating soporific properties. From underneath the rim, so to speak, of the uppermost plate, a series of long, hairy green tentacles stretched in every direction towards the horizon. They were about 7 or 8 feet long, and each and tapered from 4 inches to half an inch in diameter, yet they stretched out so stiffly as iron rods. Above all of these, from between the upper and the undercusp, 6 white, almost transparent palpi reared themselves towards the sky, twirling and twisting with marvelous, incessant motion, yet constantly reaching upwards. Thin as reeds and frail as quills, apparently. They were yet 5 or 6 feet tall, and they were so constantly and vigorously in motion, with such a subtle, sinuous silence throbbing against the air, they made me shudder in spite of myself, with the suggestion of serpents flayed, yet dancing on their tails. So,
I like the alliteration there. I think the description was possibly a trifle long.
Yeah.
But, you use a bit of alliteration. It's quite poetical, isn't he, for a botanist?
For a made-up botanist. So, the explorer claimed his observation was cut short by natives shrieking wildly around a tree, but the interruption gave him the opportunity to witness an eating ritual. Letch wrote that the tribe surrounded a woman using javelins, forced her to climb to the top of the tree where she became dinner.
I'll tell you what, it's a nightmare. If you're a fake botanist and you're just out in Madagascar trying to make a load of, artistic poetical notes about a fake tree, and then there's fake racial caricatures and, acting up all around you.
Try and make friends with some lemurs. Yeah. Try and get an eye because they're cute.
I kind of get the impression this is probably quite a lot to do with, sort of fairly credulous people in the late 19th century and some not particularly healthy views about non-white people.
Well, yes, I think so. Sort of racism in its modern form really only came about because of colonialism, because before Europeans were trying to take over these lands / enslave people, they were trading partners. They weren't, people from different races weren't thought of any less or anything. An English person would have hated a French person more than they would have hated someone from Ethiopia. So, do you know what I mean? It's
probably wouldn't have been in a position to meet, I guess. But
well, they would. Yeah. No, they would. They've been trading with Ethiopia and Congo and stuff for 1,000 years.
Oh no, I mean your average, somebody.
Yeah, but I'm saying
somebody in a village in Wales or something. You only know people in your own village.
The whole bollocks about the white burden and the noble savage and all that shit was just an excuse to try
make some money.
Yeah, it was just going, we've got to civilise them. Well, they're perfectly civilised. Do you know what I mean? It's just, but that's an excuse because it's a way to sell being fucking awful to people back home, basically.
Yeah.
And that's my thoughts on that.
There you go.
So Leach was horrified at the sacrifice. And I never see such a sight again, he said, or he wrote. Still, he continued to make notes and found a smaller tree.
I'll hang around a bit longer, though, and just make some more notes. Just to see what's happening next.
A smaller tree that caught and ate a lemur. For the next 14 years, Leach's description was widely believed until a publication called Current Literature exposed the story as pure fiction, written by a reporter named Edmund Spencer. So there's 2 different ones here. These stories don't match up.
Or the meta-narrative is that everything you're reading is pure fiction as well, and they've been made up as...
Well, is it, though? Or is it a cover-up?
Because we're all inside the simulation, Chris, that's what you've got to remember.
Is it a cover-up? Well, apparently, they're saying that it was pure fiction based on a report named Edmund Spencer. The other one was by a scientific writer, and I can't remember her name, but it was a woman. So, it's sounding like a cover-up to me now.
If we find a third one,
that's different again.
Where I'll be, yeah.
The inconsistencies are making it seem more real. Carlicho's Doctor.
I didn't believe in a flat Earth until I saw the evidence, Chris. But it's got pretty compelling. All those YouTube videos I watch, those Facebook posts, they're pretty compelling.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wormhole definitely that won't lead you to QAnon within about 3 clicks. Carlicho's Dr. Fredlowski and the Makodos tribe were figments of his imagination, and despite the existence of carnivorous plants like Venus flytraps, no plants eat humans. I would add that we know of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's bound to be at least one in Australia. Come on, somewhere in the area.
Yeah, must be.
Bound to be.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And if there isn't, then we need to work on breeding one. Yeah.
Should we get in touch? Should we get in touch with the Ministry of Defence?
Wouldn't put Francis Galton off. He'd be like, "No, we'll make one."
We'll take Pigman.
Yeah, take Pigman. He knows his stuff.
Not everyone read current literature, and some explorers continued spending time on Madagascar searching for the mysterious tree. Here's a headline from the Auckland Star from January 17th, 1933. An ominous tree. Said stop. Said to eat men. Stop. Secret of Madagascar. Stop. An adventurous quest. Stop. In 1933, article reported that a group of adventurers, including a botanist, a mineralogist, that's it, and a scientist, would be led by former military man, Captain L.R. de la Hurst. That's nice. On a private expedition to find the tree. I can tell you this, Hurst said. It does eat human beings. It's being kept a very close secret, and the natives are not too keen on pointing out the locality. Chiefs have told me that sacrifices are periodically offered to the tree. I hope, if possible, to take cinema pictures of the actual ceremony. They found nothing, but at least they came back uneaten. So, the plot thickens.
I mean, that's a low bar, isn't it? The success of your trip. Well, I didn't get eaten by this fake plant. Oh, that's a win.
Well, is it? So this is on 54history.com. So I think it's going to be a lot of recycled stuff. So I'll be skipping through. But
I think pick out the salient points.
So it's called the Yetavio plant. So that's new. And it's described as being predominant to Africa and Central America, according to this. And it was named for making a hissing sound similar.
That's just a good touch.
Similar to the Spanish phrase "Yitival," which means "I see you."
That feels like a reach.
And it has poisonous spines that resemble multiples of huge serpents in an angry discussion, occasionally darting from side to side as if striking at imaginary prey. They seize. So they're kind of, it sounds like a land-sea anemone, doesn't it? Right. That's all they've got that's new. Okay, and we'll see if there's anything here. So this is from the Monster blog of monsters.tumblr.com. One of the most famous anthropomorphous or man-eating trees in the magical world, the Madagascar man-eating tree was first boosted into occidental magical awareness. Oh, fucking hell. By...
Occidental, was that?
Yeah, Occidental.
As in like Western?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's a very old-fashioned way of looking at it.
This is a very old-fashioned article. I think it might have been written by Boris Johnson. Magical Awareness by Beaumont Marjoribanks' book, Flesh-Eating Trees of the World. While the tree itself is often described as horrifying and ugly, this is largely due to its situation, often surrounded by the bones of those it's killed, by entrapping them in large, thorny, and markedly prehensile tendrils. Rather like the head of a Venus flytrap, these can secrete a corrosive used by the plant to turn to a digestible slurry the flesh of the bodies they trap and consume it with the bones later discarded, forming calcareous rises these plants often end up growing on. The plant itself, when sated, is relatively safe to approach, though it's still generally inadvisable, as these plants have been proven intelligent enough to sometimes trap people simply for apparent amusement, toying with them like cats. However, once sated, the tree's tendrils ascend above it, giving the appearance of a large nest of somewhat thorny branches and leaves rising from a large trunk. This trunk is the target of most attempts to destroy the tree, as burning the tendrils is exceedingly hard. When multiple powerful cutting curses can fell a specimen, I think I'm getting an idea what this one's about. It seems to be of the Wiccan bent, doesn't it? So
yeah, there's a lot of reference to
cutting curses.
Are you sure you're not just working out a transcript of a Dungeons and Dragons game?
Maybe a new Netflix series.
Yeah.
A powerful cutting curse can fell a specimen of the Madagascar man-eating tree with relative swiftness, so that's good. Get your curses in order before travelling to Madagascar.
That's my fictional offence against the fictional creature. That's good. This is how to defend yourself from something that doesn't exist. Is this a...
So, the wood of the Madagascar man-eating tree is occasionally used in wand making, just as its parent cousins, the Yeti Vow, the Nubian man-eating tree, and the Japanese Jiboko.
Did I hear you right? It's good for wand making, as in like magic wands.
Sure did.
Yeah. So that the wands are particularly effective against other man-eating trees, water-based Pokemon,
cutting spells.
Yeah.
So, and have a preference for the Dampier, Yaki Ono, Hanyo, and the half-human offspring of creatures such as the bones. So I feel like I've had a stroke.
Well, I feel like I'm having one right now. So, my one's made out of Madagascar man-eating tree. No, that's balsa wood. That's definitely
MDF.
Yeah.
That's your brother's drumstick.
No, that's made out of an old toilet roll.
It makes
a cardboard century.
It's a really big wand. It makes for an extremely flexible and adaptable wand wood, Neil. So you need to shove those chuckles back down your laughing gap. Yeah, it's flexible and adaptable, and often oddly friendly. Selecting those who are lonely and isolated. So that'll
good Lord.
That'll touch a nerve of everyone who reads this blog. That said, wands of this wood can be incredibly dangerous, especially in defence. It has been known to secrete a corrosive when forcibly taken from its master. So is that how wands work, Neil? Is it kind of they're like a familiar or a pet or something?
I didn't think I'm not up on my
yeah, you are
on my magic skills.
So
no, I've never heard that before. So the wand attacks somebody who tries to steal it from the owner.
Well, to be fair, I've just read underneath.
Yeah, my store of arcane knowledge is not particularly.
The Monsters blog of Monsters is a Harry Potter headcanon blog. There is one mod and one queried post daily, sometimes supplemented with a second. Asks will always be answered.
There you go. You can field your questions through to the individual involved.
Dear sirs.
I had some thoughts.
So I think that's pretty much it for the Madagascar man-eating tree. I don't know if there's that much more about it. I'll have a quick.
We've moved on to Harry Potter fanfic.
Well,
I definitely understand.
Let's see what we
time to call it swift closed.
So Yatival in James W. Wells' Sea and Land, 1889. The Yatival plant is described as being native to Africa and Central America, doing the hissing shit, right? William, I'm on the Wikipedia now. But
hissing that sounds like a Spanish phrase. Apparently.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a cross between a Spanish parrot and a man-eating tree. Yeah. That makes good magic wands as well.
So, I know it's got
worth tracking down
and a delicious honey like substance.
Should you find yourself in Madagascar?
Honey style substance.
Not just any wand, particularly.
That's probably what they sell at Iceland.
Well, they might do this. That store, isn't there, in Brighton? They sell Harry Potter guff.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Do
you
reckon his are made out of balsa wood or magic trees?
I don't care. It's a simple answer. So...
it's got a unicorn feather inside.
So, the vampire vine. I'm just reading the Wikipedia now just to cover it all up. William Thomas Stead, editor of Review of Reviews, published a brief article in October 1891 that discussed a story found in Lucifer magazine. Ooh. Describing a plant in Nicaragua called by the natives the devil's snare. This plant had the capability to drain the blood of any living thing which comes within its death-dealing touch, according to the article. So
it's a vampire tree now.
Yeah. So I'll read it in 1889 voice.
Fair enough.
Mr. Dunson, naturalist, who recently returned from Central America, where he spent nearly 2 years in the study of the flora and fauna of the country, relates the finding of a singular growth in one of the swamps which surrounded the Great Lakes of Nicaragua. He was engaged in hunting for botanical and entomological species when he heard this dog cry out, as if in agony from a distance. Running to the spot whence the animal's cries came, Mr. Dunson found him enveloped in a perfect network of what seemed to be fine rope-like tissues of roots and fibre. The native servants who accompanied Mr. Dunson manifested the greatest horror of the vine, which they called the devil's snare, and were full of stories of its death-dealing powers. He was able to discover very little about the nature of the plant owing to the difficulty of handling it, for its grasp can only be torn away with the loss of skin or even flesh, but as near as Mr. Dunson could ascertain, its power of suction contained in a number of infinitesimal mouths or little suckers which ordinarily close and open for the reception of food. The substance is animal. The blood is drawn off from the carcass or refuse, then dropped. An investigations of Stead's Review determined no such article was published in the October issue of Lucifer, and concluded that the story in the Review of Reviews appeared to be a fabrication by the editor. The story, in fact, appeared in September's issue, preceded by a longer version in an 1889 newspaper describing Dunstan as a well-known naturalist from New Orleans. So, it's been in quite a lot of literature and films. I'm going to fire through them, Neil, okay? And I want to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you'd read it, okay?
Right.
The Man Eating Tree, 1881. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You need to say it.
All right, thumbs up.
The Flowering of the Strange Orchid, 1894, H.G. Wells.
Oh, H.G. Wells, thumbs up.
The Purple Terror, 1899, by Fred M. White.
Oh, yeah, thumbs up.
Spanish Revenge, 1906.
Yeah, thumbs down.
2 stories of the comic strip Dick Tracy, Mr. Crime and Lieutenant TiVo.
Thumbs down.
I
watched the movie adaptation. No, Dustin
Hoffman. In Get Smart's What About All the Algae?
Thumbs up.
In Conan the Buccaneer.
Thumbs up.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, thumbs up.
The Sagebrush Kid, 2008, by Anne Prulich.
Don't know what that is. Thumbs down.
Shades of Grey, The Road to High Saffron, 2012, by Jasper Ford.
Thumbs down.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Thumbs down.
Day of the Triffids.
Thumbs up.
The Hunger of Septopus.
No, thumbs down.
Life of Pi.
No, thumbs up. I don't remember that in Life
There's
of
a
Pi.
carnivorous tree on a floating island, apparently.
Oh, no, actually, yeah, that fake.
The Ruins
Anyway, it's
by
fine.
Scott Smith.
Nah, thumbs down, generic
The
title.
Woman Eater, 1958, British horror film.
Thumbs down on this, I'm really bored.
Werewolf of London.
Thumbs up.
Poltergeist.
Yeah, thumbs up. I don't remember it.
Well, it says in the film, the backyard tree comes alive, which grabs and devours a child.
Don't know devouring a child. Has it got the Evil Dead on there?
No.
That's quite an awful sin. No.
So, Neil, I think that is all we're going to find out until they finally put some proper funding behind.
Well, inconclusive is what I'm going to say there.
Yeah, I think inconclusive is probably fair. So, Neil, shall we go through our scoring system? So, I will let you go first, Neil, with spookiness.
Yeah, I'd say it's quite spooky. Being mauled alive by a tree, it'd be pretty. I don't know why that's worse than like a wild animal or what have you.
It seems to be worse, doesn't it? Like, because
it feels
kind of slowly dissolving you and crushing you and stuff. It's not like a quick kill.
Well, I kind of feel like they'd have to get out of its reaches unless it was like, manage to, I don't know, like grip you so tight that you couldn't get out. So, yeah, if you're being dissolved slowly, that'd be extremely awful. But, but it's just the idea of kind of like, going to some place where there's man-eating plants and things is inherently quite spooky. It's just us, that fear of things that you don't understand or places that you haven't been to, sort of, what have you. Which is obviously based on ignorance, but no, it's quite a spooky premise, I think, and that's obviously why it's sort of
Stuck around,
hung around for a bit. Yeah, now turned into comedy, little horrors and stuff. But yeah, no, I think I'm going to give it a 7.
Nice. Yeah, so I think it's quite spooky as well because when you're going through the woods, or the jungle in this case. You're kind of not watching the plants, are you? You're looking out for animals, spiders,
what's behind
snakes,
the plants?
what's behind the plants. Peek behind the curtain. So you're kind of looking out for animals and that kind of stuff, or insects that, I don't know, whatever, biting millipedes, that kind of stuff.
King Kong.
The dinosaur,
Spiting some T-Rexes somewhere,
yeah, probably. For the pleasure of Kim Jong-un. I believe. That's the latest coming out. The plant, obviously, we know, some plants will give you like horrible rashes, that kind of stuff, and some of them will kill you if you eat them. But generally, plants are pretty neutral, you kind of think. Do you know what I mean? You're not looking out for them. So if you're in somewhere and you didn't know about it, you can see how your guard would be down against its serpent-like tendrils. So yeah, I think it's quite spooky, and also the way it kills you is pretty horrific. And then if like a load of 4-foot guys turned up and started laughing, do you know what I mean? That's just putting salt in the wound, isn't it? So I'm going to go with you and give it a 7-0. So believability. There are plants that eat animals, as I failed to get out of my brain earlier via the gift of mouth. So that's believable that there is, and it doesn't have like gnashing teeth or something. It does corrode people. So that's kind of how carnivorous plants work. So that's believable. Is it believable there's stuff in the jungles which haven't been found? Yes. That's believable. It could be that there isn't that many of them because they use a lot of resources and live for hundreds of years because plants, can live for a very long time. So it's more believable than some stuff that we've covered. But on the other hand, all of the stories about it have been hoaxes. So I don't know. There's a grain of truth in there somewhere, but if this actual plant exists as described, I don't think so. So I'm going to give it a believability of 6. Neil.
It'd be quite a bit lower for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
no, instantly was thinking this is bullshit, and you'd be hoping there'd be a bit more to it, but it's no, I don't know. I mean, for a plant to be able to move around so quickly and sort of grab people and, you know, hold them fast while it sort of eats them, it's just inherently a bit ridiculous, really. And to sort of digest a human being, I don't think there's, you know, that thing. But I mean, you do get plants that there's like there's a plant that sort of smells of rotting flesh and stuff like that. I don't know whether that kind of thing might have caused people to think, or they might sort of like digest much smaller kind of like living things. But it's inherently slightly ridiculous, and I think it just comes down to a time when there was a bit more of a credulous age. And obviously that's why these things haven't sort of like been reported in any serious sources.
So the biggest,
journalists making
the biggest known carnivorous plant is 5 foot tall, and it traps lizards and rodents.
So you're looking at things like, that you could hold in your hand that you digest.
That we know of.
Yeah. And, unless something's freaking huge. I can't. So no, it doesn't seem particularly believable to me. I'm going to give it a 2.
2. Oh. So Neil, reach.
So I guess it's been in. I mean, I guess you've heard of this to a certain extent, in that in different kind of like ways, is the idea of kind of like plants that can eat, large animals and things like that, which is kind of like just something that's taken up from nature, but just massively extrapolated from what's real. It's a funny one, this, because the actual kind of like the actual Madagascar kind of like one, I hadn't heard of that, and I've not, I don't think that's necessarily very commonly known. But just the idea of kind of like man-eating plants, or dangerous plants, that's a bit more broadly bit more broadly out there. But I think that this particular urban legend, I don't think is massively well known. It's been around for a while, but I'm not convinced that all of those kind of things were necessarily looking at this particular myth, thinking, like Audrey from Little Shop of
Venus flytrap.
Somebody may have just made that. Yeah, exactly. It just looks like a Venus flytrap. I think somebody's just kind of like, I don't think they've necessarily been familiar with this particular thing. Yeah, so I don't know. I'll split the diff a little bit, go on the lower side. I'll give it a 4.
4. Yeah, I mean, it looks like this could have been, because it was in a lot of newspaper articles around the world back in the 1880s or whatever, 1870s. So I think maybe it's maybe an earlier tale that, so like the, H.G. Wells maybe had read about it and then did his stuff. And so I think that it could well be one of the precursors to all the rest, like one of the earlier versions. But then I don't know, because it's not a huge leap mentally to go a plant that eats humans. So, I'm sure there's probably medieval stuff about that, but I don't know without looking further. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's got a very big reach. It was probably better known 140 years ago than it is now. But there's plenty about it on the internet and stuff. So yeah, I'm going to go quite low as well. I'm going to give it a 3. And that brings us to narrative premise. So the premise, it depends. Is this the first kind of time where it was widely put about that there's this massive man-eating tree or whatever, or is it some of propaganda about Africa and the savagery of the people there and stuff, which it could well be. They've given a pretty detailed description of it. That's good. I think that, it all being a hoax, they've made up like the doctor and also other people who have been sent letters by the doctor and stuff. So it's quite a tidy web of a hoax. Do you know what I mean? They've not half-assed it.
A bit of effort into it.
But again, it's not, I don't know. I think that I'm going to give them, I think man-eating tree stuff's probably been around for a long time, but, this is the earliest we've seen so far. So for that and the fact that they put a bit of effort in, I'm going to give it a 4. Neil?
Yeah, probably broadly similar. I don't think there's a massive amount of good narrative you can get out of this, especially since it relies so heavily on the kind of like, savages in a savage land nonsense that sort of propagated in the sort of late 19th century, well before, I'm sure. But it just feels like that kind of narrative has run its course. But just a very gleam of a kind of like a man-eating plant. I mean, there's stuff you can do with that, and obviously it's been turned into various different things. It's been a sort of musical comedy. Day of the Triffids, I don't think they were man-eating, but they could kill you. So the notion of plants, but sort of like
being aggressors,
and that thing. Yeah, there's just, I think, where there is something, I don't like the sort of origins of it, but where I think there is a nice little narrative hook here is just the whole kind of thing where we think of ourselves at the top of the food chain, and there's, it feels like an upending of what we consider the natural order of things. So there's something there, But I think that's taking it a sort of step further. So if you sort of move on from that part, but yeah, the idea of man-eating plants is quite a good one. But maybe so on that basis, I'll give it a 5.
5, okay. So that gives us an overall urban legend total of 38, right there in the bell curve. We'll have to plot these out one day, but it's time, innit? Well, that's. Is that our third one from Africa? I believe so. And Africa being the only continent which we haven't had a listener from. So, and I include in that Antarctica, the mystical underwater city continent, where the Anunnaki come from. That's really it for this week's Urban Legends. If you've got any comments or anything, feel free to get in touch at urb.legends.podcast@gmail.com. But beyond that, keep your wits about you when you're going to the gardening centre next weekend with your grandparents or something for a nice cup of tea and a slice of carrot cake. I don't know why I did that. You never know.
I mean, you do.
Well, I know. Yeah, my grandparents are dead, so that won't be happening. So on that cheerful note, I hope you have a lovely week, and goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.